So the Colts in the first 2 days of free agency, they've made a lot of moves. Yesterday, it was of course restructuring Braden Smith's contract, bringing in safety Cameron Bynum, and now they signed Daniel Jones and Charvarius Ward. So clearly, this team is trying to contend next season. We see the Texans making moves; the Colts are right up there with them. In terms of Anthony Richardson, we'll get into him a little bit later, but he is not expected to ask for a trade. He's good to go, which is great news. So that means that Richardson and Jones are going to battle it out for QB1. Now, yesterday, for those of you that saw my Colts video, I said that I would not like to see the team bring in Justin Fields only because they're just giving up on Richardson to that point. But I'd like to see them bring in Jones because you get competition, but it's not to the point where it's okay, but we sort of made a mistake of Richardson. Let's replace him. It's no, let's let these guys go at it and try to bring out the most in them. You look at Sam Darnold, he ended up signing a 1 year deal. I think it was $10 million with the Vikings last season. He ended up playing like an MVP. We've seen Baker go to the Bucks, Smith to the Seahawks. Can Daniel Jones do the same? Well, we're about to find out. But this is just the best thing to happen for the Colts because Richardson, if he wins the job and ends up transforming his career, well, that's huge. If Richardson loses the job, Daniel Jones comes in, and to that point, maybe they'll just end up making him the future quarterback of the team. Because you look at the Vikings, they had McCarthy. Now, JJ McCarthy certainly is a lot more polished than Richardson, at least coming out of Michigan compared to AR coming out of Florida. So that's kind of what I'm getting at. Is it feels like the Colts are going to win no matter what here. The only way they could lose is if Jones and Richardson both just suck, which is definitely possible. But we've seen a lot of quarterbacks be in unfavorable situations, and then they go to one and they thrive. Like that's how it works. Baker with the Browns. I know he led them to the playoffs for the first time in like 40 years, 30 years or whatever. But Darnold was with the Jets, and Geno was with the Jets as well. I mean, the Jets it seemed to be a horrible place for QBs. I'm sorry, Justin Fields. But in all seriousness, the Colts, their secondary was just atrocious last year. I don't think Gus Bradley put them into the best situation. But already in 2 days of free agency, the Colts have brought in Cameron Bynum, course, a 6-foot safety out of California, former fourth-round pick. He had a good season last year, 3 picks, 10 passes defended, great locker room presence. But the biggest move that the Colts have made in a while, I can't remember the last time the Colts had a free agent move as big as this, is Charvarius Ward. I understand that last season he struggled, but he lost his daughter. So how can you expect him to be playing high-level football to that point? He did say that he'd like a change of scenery to get out of California, and he's going to Indy. There's really not much to do there as much as I do like this team in the city. It's not Cali, right? It's definitely not Santa Clara or the Bay Area. So Ward, you take a look at what he did the year prior, though, 2023. He received his first Pro Bowl selection and a second-team All-Pro with 72 tackles, 5 interceptions, and a forced fumble. If the Colts can get that out of him, I mean, this is a guy who has 70 passes defended and 10 picks in his career since 2018. You pair him, of course, with Kenny Moore, in the safety position, Nick Cross and Bynum. It'll definitely be interesting to see Jalen Jones' continued development. Daniel Scott missed all last season. He just can't stay healthy early on in his career. I think he's got potential. Certainly, Juju Brents is another guy that just can't stay healthy, but he's looked great when he's on the field. This Colts secondary could be elite. And the pass rush for Indy is already very good. Ebukam's going to be back. They've got Leatu Latu, who's going to hopefully sort of be that guy that they expected him to when they drafted him in the first round. Gus Bradley just didn't really utilize him at all. They got D-Buck, they've got Pay, they still have got Tyquan Lewis, they've got Adebawore. I don't know how much he's going to play, but a lot of depth on this team. EJ Speed, I'm not entirely sure if the Colts plan to bring him back in free agency. We'll have to wait and see on that. But the defense is looking very good. I mean, this is the best defense the Colts have had probably since like 2018, at least going into the season. It looks really good. I'm excited about that. The offensive line is still intact with restructuring Braden Smith's contract, so I'm happy about that as well. The receiving position, I need to see Adonai Mitchell have that year 2 leap. There's plenty of receivers who it takes them a couple of years to figure it out. Not everyone's going to be Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr. just come in and immediately go for over 1,000 yards. The Colts are developing this guy. The thing about Mitchell is he just dropped the ball a ton last season. He had no issue getting open. He just couldn't catch the ball, and always seemed to be he dropped it when the game was on the line, or he could have completely changed it. But I'm not too worried about AD Mitchell. I think he's a very talented player. I'm excited about his upside. Alec Pierce had a breakout season. Josh Downs had a good year. Michael Pittman Jr. kind of had a down year, but I think that was just because of lack of quarterback play. Sometimes receivers benefit off of certain quarterbacks. Sometimes they don't. I think Josh Downs, honestly, and Pierce both did, but I don't think Pittman did. Because you look at Downs, I mean, he's in the slot. Richardson, not that he throws short, but Josh Downs, he just made a lot of big plays. He also had a lot of drops too. I think he actually led us in drops. And then Pittman Jr. just, and you can't even blame Pittman, man. That's why Jones and Richardson are just so important to seeing who wins this battle, because you can't go anywhere without good quarterback play, man. I mean, you don't even have a chance. And we saw that last year. The Colts just couldn't beat the good teams. They were competitive, but the only teams the Colts beat last year that were good were teams that weren't good. Actually, yeah, they weren't good, right? The only wins they had were just bad teams. So that's going to be something to monitor. Ashton Doolin's back on a 2-year contract worth up to $8.5 million. Good for him. He's provides just depth on the back end in case there's injuries. He can step in and hopefully continue to make some plays. But the team is in a great spot. Of course, we still have the draft at the end of next month in April. But already the Colts are just going after their biggest weaknesses and addressing them. The secondary, of course, just sort of making sure the offensive line stays intact. We know how important that's going to be for a young quarterback in Richardson and in Jonathan Taylor to make sure that he's protected, of course, when he gets the ball on handoffs. But another thing is just Shane Steichen. He's not going to be able to call certain plays and formations if he doesn't have that protection. That's why we saw a team like the Detroit Lions last season have such an explosive offense, because they were able to call it like that, right? Versus like a team like the Washington Commanders, who, I mean, yeah, they had a good season, but imagine what they're going to do now with like a Larry Tunsil who they brought in, and they're continuing to sort of rework that offensive line. But this just shows that the Colts are all in. They're trying to be competitive. They just haven't done this the past couple of years, and that's why it's been so disappointing. They're just relying on their draft picks to end up becoming good players, and some of them have, some of them haven't, and it's just left them very vulnerable, especially on the back end. But that's been addressed too. This is the best secondary, I mean, the Colts have probably had since I started watching them, which was a while ago. Man, we're talking like 20 years ago. Like, I mean, this is an amazing secondary. It's going to do big things, and the rush has never been an issue in the Ballard era, at least of late. Like, the Colts can get after the quarterback, and we don't have to worry about them not blitzing anymore and sending pressure. They were just too predictable under Gus Bradley. The linebackers, again, Speed's a pending free agent. Sire Franklin, one of the captains on this team, had another great year. Excited about him. Cameron McGrone's another younger guy that hopefully can get some more reps. Same thing with Shengun Alubi. Grant Stewart stepped in due to an injury, more of a special teams guy, but I thought he played pretty well. But yeah, this team, it was let down by the offense. The defense, I mean, not that the defense was good, because statistically it was bad, but I don't think the defense was the biggest issue. I just think it was the offense just not being able to consistently move the ball. And the reason for that is because Richardson couldn't make the easy throws, the underneath. Everything was deep and it was predictable. And certainly Richardson was bad when he was blitzed too. So the Colts they're going to have to go out there and basically just do what they didn't last year, like the complete opposite of last season. And I'm pretty excited about it. It just gives me at least a reason to believe. Like, I understand the frustration with this organization after what happened last year, but since they're making moves, they're filling holes. They brought in Lou Anarumo, who I really like. I think he was unfairly let go of.